So what we're going to do today is there's going to be a very, very brief EDB introduction. Promise won't take more than a few minutes. And then we'll start a discussion about why do you care about the license, right? I mean, there were historical reasons, a long time ago where folks just cared about the license, but there are other things that you should really be aware of before you embark on using a certain open source project or a package of software coming from an open source project. We'll talk about the need to understand innovation, long-term viability, and then we'll dive into Postgres, or Bruce is going to dive into Postgres and explain to us what makes Postgres so different and the things that we believe you should know about the Postgres project itself. And then we'll give you our perspective on guidance for open source selection. Okay. Now, before we go in, let me first start with introductions. Bruce, go ahead.
Hey, hi, I'm Bruce Momjian. I've been with Enterprise DB for 14 years, like coming on 15, and working with Postgres since 1996. One of the co-founders and a core team member of the project.
Okay, great. And so that's why Bruce can really give you the background on what makes Postgres different, not just from a technology point of view, but really from the underlying community and open source mechanics. And I'm Marc Linster. I'm the CTO of Enterprise DB, and I've been here working with Bruce for, well, next week to be 8 years. Okay, let's dive in. So EDB, and as I said, I'll be very brief about EDB. We're database fanatics who care deeply about Postgres. That's what we do. We do Postgres and only Postgres. We've been in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for operational relational database management systems for 7 years, which is as long as Gartner has published this Magic Quadrant. And we've been recognized in the community also for our enterprise Postgres innovations, where we focus a lot on things like high availability, management, integration, and then also migration from Oracle. But today, we're not going to go into many of these things. We're heavily involved in the Postgres community, where since 2004, when EDB was founded, we've contributed significantly to Postgres. Things like the heap-only tuples, materialized views, parallel query, the upgrade mechanism, just-in-time compilation, serializable parallel query. All of those things were contributions from Enterprise DB to open source Postgres. In September, we acquired Second Quadrant, and Second Quadrant has always been the #2 contributor to, or another large contributor to Postgres. And they've done very, very interesting things. A lot of them focused on replication and high availability, and notably hot standby, the logical replication, transaction control, generated columns. So since September of last year, both companies are together, and we're really the largest dedicated Postgres company today. So going forward, and let's talk a little bit about licenses. Okay, licenses, especially open source licenses. I was a developer for a long time. I was a IT leader for a long time, and our traditional concern has always been, is the license virulent? Meaning, is there GPL? That's pretty much the only thing I always had to account for. And as long as there was no GPL and I had the necessary precautions to protect us from a license perspective, we were ready to go ahead. Okay, but now that open source is really becoming so popular, and I think we all know, and Bruce has confirmed that 70 to 80% of all projects today leverage open source. Now it's become so popular, there are other things that we believe open source users need to be aware of. And we're not trying to do fear mongering here or anything like that, but it's just guidance that we know from our experience needs to be shared. Things like, can I rely on it on production? Can I build a product strategy on the software? Meaning, is this a one-shot deal, or will this software and the underlying community and maybe a company supporting it still be there next year and the year after? Can I partner with this community and really make them a part of my long-term strategy? Who is going to support me in production? Right? I mean, often developing an open source is easy, but then production concerns, that's a different thing. Is there somebody who offers me good production support that allows me to use the software in a 4 or even 5 nines type of environment? Is it going to be innovative? Right? Is it going to be, really leading the pack, or, is it really just 2 or 3 people in a garage doing something? And when I build on it, maybe one day I'll wake up and I'm actually not leveraging an innovation vehicle, but there's just a zombie that's still stumbling forward, and I can't even get support anymore. My operating system has been upgraded and the software doesn't support the new version. Can they change their license model? And I think that's going to be a key topic now. I mean, just recently, there's been a lot of reports in the press about Elastic, right? They changed their license model. And again, now people who built on Elastic, they need to deal with the fact that suddenly something that was a recognized open source project no longer is a recognized open source project. And then something that's really important is, can I influence the roadmap, right? Because I use the software today because of the things that are in the software that I like. But as my needs evolve, as I use the software more and more, I will want to, get features put on the roadmap. I want to be working with somebody who can help me do that. Can I do all these things? So those are new concerns that come into the choice of open source that maybe a couple of years ago, when open source was less important, were not considered as much.